Welcome to Go For Side Effects. I'm your host, Kevin Simon, and y'all know my co-host, John. John, how you doing this evening?
Hello, everyone. Doing good. Doing good. Thank you.
And tonight, we got Thomas. Thomas, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are y'all?
Doing good. So, tonight, we're going to talk about, all of our times during Desert Storm, Thomas, but let's talk about what years that you went in and everything.
Sure. I joined in 1989, just right out of high school. I think it was in June, end of June. Went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma for basic training and an AIT, and became a 13 Mike multiple launch rocket system crew member, and most people know it as HMARS now. And then was stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, from 1989 until I got out in 1991. I was actually on the 2-year try it if you like it kind of a program. I decided I'd rather go to college and get out. I did get out and stayed out for about a year, and then decided to go ahead and join the National Guard. So I joined the Virginia National Guard. I was with the 2nd and 116th Light Infantry Regiment, became 11 Bravo, and stayed with them until the end of my 8-year commitment, which was in September of 97.
Dang, man, that's a long time. Man, you became an old man in the military.
I was only a specialist out of all of it. I was only a specialist. E4 Mafia for life. It was a bad thing. I got out of the Army early at 2 years, so it didn't quite make the time period to be a specialist. So I got out as a PFC, went into the National Guard as a PFC, but I couldn't make specialist until I became MOS qualified. So I had to wait an entire year after I joined to go to the 2-week infantry qualification school at Fort Lee in Virginia. Fort AP Hill in Virginia. And after I did that, I got my E4. But by the time all that was said and done, my commitment was almost up. So E4 Mafia for life.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what's funny is I was telling a guy, he was telling me, he was like, hey, man, I was, he was supposed to make it in the Navy, and he said, about after the age of 26, 27, that's considered an old man on a ship. I was like, shit, you're right. And it's funny because I remember my BM1 and my chief, they're in their 30s and 40s, and you're like, that dang, man, they're kind of old to be on this ship if you think about it. But let's talk about your time when you went into Desert Storm. Let's talk about what you did and where you were at.
Sure. Well, I mean, once it all happened, we were actually at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, which is a very rapid deployment base. We happened to be the hot battery that month in August of 90. And my platoon, my fire platoon, happened to be the hot fire platoon that month.
What's hot fire? What the hell is hot fire?
What it means is you're the first if you need to show. So, in other words, they got on the C-141s or the C-5s, and boom, they were in Saudi Arabia within 48 hours. So my entire fire platoon, all the launchers and the ammunition trucks and everything else, they, for that fire platoon, all went in advance within days of the invasion. I stayed back at Fort Bragg. I was the platoon sergeant driver. So I stayed back to get all the rest of our stuff and our supplies with our platoon ready to be loaded up on the Merchant Marine ships in Wilmington, and then deployed with the rest of the battalion as the whole battalion deployed, which was about maybe 14 days later or something like that. Can't remember exact time period, but it's written down somewhere.
Man.
Then we got to I believe it was Daharan. Got off the plane. We stayed at I can't remember the name of it, but it was a National Guard, Saudi National Guard facility. And we acclimated to the weather.
Yeah, shit.
We all know what that was. That was Mop 4, baby. That was Mop 4.
I laugh it was like 70 freaking degrees when we arrived there, and they put us all in formation, and we were all ordered to drink a bunch of water, and I'm like, it's like perfect weather here. We're not sweating. It's not even hot.
I don't know what Saudi you went to. I got off that plane and I felt like an egg frying. It was like 110 and a GP medium, and that they
Oh,
crammed us into, and they gave us hot water. Had been sitting underneath that tarp. I mean, underneath that tent all day. It was miserable.
but you arrived. What month did you arrive in?
August of 1990.
Oh, see, well, there's a difference. I got there. I think it was in November, so I was a little
Yeah, they're
later.
in the rainy, cold season. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If you
Yeah.
can call it that, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And you and
Yeah, it
you
was that
and
much
you
different in August.
and you arrived there now. So you had a different acronym. I said MRS, and you said then later 11 Bravo. So while you were in country,
While
you
I was in
were
active duty, all through Saudi Arabia, through the whole active duty thing, I was a multiple launch rocket system crew member, which is 13 Mike.
so
National Guard, I was 11 Bravo. I never deployed as 11 Bravo. I just
So-
was a National Guardman.
let me pick your brain, because we had another fellow vet on that did that, and I know there's certain things you can't share with us, but see if you give me the same information. How many of them damn things are on board one of those? How many rockets are on board?
On an M277 launcher, it's built on an M2 Bradley fighting vehicle chassis. And it does have, I believe, a twin turbo Detroit diesel engine in it. It's capable of going up to 50, 55 miles an hour. So it will stay with the M1 Abrams. It will stay with the Bradleys. Each one had 12 rockets, 2 6-packs in 2 different bays. They were all done by hydraulics on the LLN, which is the loader launcher module that moved off to the side. So the thing would go up, go over to the side. The gunner is the one that would control it by a remote control that was tethered in the back, and he controlled the whole operation. The ammo
Really?
truck would come up along the side, and they had a boom truck on the back. They would boom 2 more brand new rocket pods, and they'd be actually ready to go. So when you drop, you just move your module over, and you pick up the new ones, load them in, and then go off to your next firing position. All that should take no more than a few minutes top.
Shit,
Really?
I went to the wrong part of the service then.
I don't know, man. It was a lot of PMCS on those things.
Dude.
I don't know.
Could you imagine me having that remote control?
Well, that remote control is just loading. You got to go inside and you got to know how to use the computer.
Oh, well, shit, that lost me right there.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
So how long were y'all out there, and what were the conditions like? Like, did y'all see oil rig fires and stuff like that?
Well, we immediately, as soon as our equipment got there, we put them all in low boys, and they trucked us out to the Western Front and put us out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, nowhere. And it was like one little hill over here that we had an observation point, and then and it was all flat. I mean, you just see for decades. And that's where we lived until the air war came. And when the air war came, we moved up to the Western Front to the line on low boys, and we waited. And then that's where we crossed. Now we crossed the Western Front, and we were the ones that went deep up and then came back down, towards the highway of death. And we took out all the airfields and all kinds of stuff. We were actually 25 kilometers ahead of any infantry or armor support. We didn't know that, but we were. And after the 3 days, that was it. We came back home. Did I see the oil fires? You asked that. No. That was all east. And I don't think the winds really prevailed that way for us. So I did not see any of the oil fires though, but I do remember our MA chemical detectors going off.
Oh, imagine that.
How many
Imagine
times?
that.
How many times?
But they were faulty.
Yeah.
See, that's the
Over
thing.
1 million times, but they were faulty.
Right, but that's the thing I didn't understand. Every time the chemical alarms went off, that's the first thing that came out. Oh, they're, having problems. They're faulty right now. And, it's no big deal, guys. But why did
Well,
everybody
Senator
go off?
Rangels, Senator Rangels and all those testimonies back in the late '90s when there's a movie actually called the Gulf War on Prime Video. You have to watch it. It's with ads. It's got Ted Danson and it goes over the whole story about the cover up of all of Commissaro, whatever the chemical weapon facility they blew up. And they want us to tell us about. But Ted Danson questioned all these higher up brass and said, well, what's the error rate or whatever of chemical weapons? And they were saying, they said, well, if it went off this many times here and you had this many in the field, then it would have been this many times. And it ended up, he said, on over 1.6 million pings, and every one of those is an error.
Right.
Is that what you're trying to tell me? And I was like, I was just blown away by the numbers when he said this. And
So while you guys were, because I was with the combat engineer unit, and I remember when things took off and you guys were raining hell down right next to us. You guys' truck, your launch rocks were it was crazy. I think very often on this show I make mention, especially when a crew member like yourself's on. And I said, I was sitting there, I was saying, thank God I'm on this side, because whoever's on the receiving end, you ain't surviving, because you guys were just dumping them hard. And I'm like,
I'm telling you, I worked with the most professional guys, and I was an old 18-year-old knucklehead. Like I told you, I was a platoon sergeant driver for a reason. My old smoke, Sergeant First Class Jackie Cockerham, God love him, and I'm still in touch with him today. And
that's awesome.
If he needed me, I would in a heartbeat go to him. He treated me like his son, and he put his foot in my ass like when I needed it. And he was an old hard country Lawton, Oklahoma, E7. So there was only two people we could play in the Humvee. It was Reba McEntire. Yeah.
I like this guy.
And Garth Brooks. That was it.
I like this guy.
Nobody else, man. So that's what I had to listen to. And I'm trying to bang my head to Metallica as we're going through minefields. No, it's Reba.
Yeah.
It so much makes a difference who's in your chain of command, your NCOs. It makes such a phenomenal difference of the kind
my
of
lieutenant.
What's that?
My lieutenant too. I got to give him a shout out, Lieutenant Michael O'Neill. That guy, he was a prior service NCO. He knew what it was to be like, and then he got his commission. I couldn't have been more fortunate. Now, my smoke and him butted heads like every LT every platoon leader and every platoon sergeant will, because it's the battle of wills there.
Right.
But in the end, we never saw that they never showed it to us, even though we knew it went on. They never showed it. They were both very professional.
I was going to say that takes a good professional attitude to do that.
Well, see, our boatswain on our ship, he was our enlisted officer, and anytime he called your name, your ass knew you were in trouble. And I heard my name.
I didn't want to disappoint either one of them. Yeah, my superiors, I didn't want to disappoint either one of them. I know I did quite a bit, because my mouth wrote a lot of checks my ass couldn't cash.
Simon, get your ass over here.
Oh yeah, I was just that typical 18-year-old E3 PFC, the one that would jump in a mud puddle for no reason. But they keep me straight.
Let me ask you this time, and we're going to come back to I want to talk a little bit more about the chain of command, because I missed out on the last podcast. I had kind of a family emergency.
Yes,
but let's add. I'm curious, Tom. So, when did you first notice that you started having issues?
Immediately. I didn't even realize I had PTSD. Surprisingly, I'm really good friends with my ex-wife, who was my wife at the time when I was deployed and came back. And we've had some discussions about it, and I don't remember so much about, but she would tell me about times where I'd wake up in the middle of the night choking the crap out of her, trying to kill her.
Oh, wow, really?
Wow.
Yeah. And all that kind of, and so I had a lot of PTSD issues, and anger issues and resentfulness issues that I'm still working on. PTSD is not what people think it is. And it took me a long time to realize, what the symptoms were, and to accept the fact that, hey, maybe something did affect me over there. Maybe I saw some stuff that, I haven't let go.
Yeah, no,
Maybe not, or processed right. So, thank God I'm going to the VA now to get help for that and all that. So that's good. Some of the other symptoms I noticed, my breathing difficulties, sleep apnea, early on. I had GERD for as long as I can remember getting out, but I didn't know anything about Gulf War illness.
Well, who did?
No, but I mean, even in the 90s when we were getting some presumptives and stuff, I didn't really know about it. And then I finally started figuring out that I got some crap going on. With my gastrointestinal, with the IBS, with some pain, some joints, some tiredness, just not the inability to function and be able to hold down jobs for meaningful times because you end up writing checks your ass can't cash, like I said earlier. And it came to a head probably around 2013, and that's when I reached out. And I went to my local VFW post here that I wasn't a member of, but I went to them and they pointed me to McGuire Hospital in Richmond, Virginia, and that there's a Virginia State veteran service officer there that would help me. So I took all my medical information, like I was told, like a good boy, went to McGuire, and I waited from 5 o'clock in the morning, and I saw her at 4:30 in the afternoon. It was
wow.
because it was I waited on a bench that long. It was ridiculous. And I said, I guess this is how it is here at the VA. Remember, this is 2013.
Sure.
So she took all my information and she took all my medical stuff. Of course, I was the last client of the day. So she said, I need to scan all this stuff in and I'll mail it to you. And I said, okay. Duh. Don't ever do that, boys and girls. Make copies and give copies.
That's
Keep
right.
originals.
Yeah.
Pro tip. So I got denied across the board. Everything that I'm rated for today, I was denied then. I didn't know I appealed. I still didn't know why. Of course, I didn't have anybody holding my hand. We didn't have the internet like we have today. We don't have guys like Combat Craig on YouTube, giving guys pointers and helping them with the claims and all the other stuff. Vet Guardian, all those other things. We didn't have that. We do now. In 2016, I get a letter from the Commonwealth of Virginia saying, we are sorry, but the state veteran service officer, unbeknownst to us, took your records and God knows how many other veterans records and took them out of the Veteran Administration building, out of the hospital, to her personal storage facility in Caroline County, Virginia, which is 4 counties away from the Veterans Hospital. She was found out because she didn't pay her storage bill. And when they auctioned her locker off, they found these records, and by law, they have to turn them over, and the FBI and whatever. So the government, the Commonwealth of Virginia, graciously paid for my Credit Karma for 1 year.
1 year, 1 whole year.
1 year.
Woo.
Yeah, well, we might have a little something. I'm exploring my habit. I can't do anything federally about it because of the way the CFR is written. And it's unfortunate. Morally, they have an obligation to me, but legally they don't. So we have to understand the legal thing and go over our feelings and go by the facts. But I might have something to say with the state of Virginia because it was a state employee that screwed me out of benefits. So I'll consult an attorney on that, but that's a whole nother issue. So then I got angry I got bitter. I mean, I hated the government. At that point, I just really changed and my whole attitude changed in life. And I threw that letter in the garbage, and my sweet wife now, thank God for her, she picked that letter out of the garbage can. She put it away for the day that I needed it. And I have it. So it comes around to 2021 or 2020, December of 2020. And I started investigating, kind of crying out for help on the Gulf War Illness website. And, I don't know how to ask really well without crying out, but Denise Nichols she saw through all that, and I was resistant for so long. I was like, screw the government, I don't care, I don't care. And she kept staying with me, and finally, after about 6 months, I relented and I started filing. And in 5 months' time, I went from 0 to 80%.
Wow.
Okay.
Because I
Good.
did what she told me to do. And I still got stuff in the works that will probably get me to 100% before the year's end, God willing, because that's really ultimately where I need to be. I'm at a point in my life now where my symptoms are overtaking me and compromising my ability to work. I'm an HVAC mechanic, and I do commercial HVAC and commercial properties. I work with high voltage quite often, and I do things very, very Rain Man and methodically, because I don't want to get hurt. But I'm finding myself now, one, with the brain fog that I've got, not doing things in the same order that I always did them before, and making mistakes that can cost me my life. And the other thing is the neuropathy that I have in my arms and in my hands. When I squeeze, it feels like, it just feels like electrocutions in my hands, and I can't grip anymore. I can't feel. So it's making it hard to torque things down, because I just don't know if it's torqued or not. And then I've lost all the muscle strength. I can't
Well-
lift this anymore.
Well,
I can lift like this all day long, but I can't do this. I don't know why. It's just strength.
I'm very happy that you're still able to work, but as we all often hear in ourselves, as we grow older, our bodies, things that we are exposed to, however it works in our bodies, things get more and more difficult, and you have to do what you just described yourself as doing, me self-advocate. Kevin, we talked a little bit, about being able to self-advocate. We had a gentleman on not long ago, and Kevin, you wanted to talk about this a little bit.
Yeah,
I
do want to talk about, because yes, and Denise Nichols is highway information. Because she knows the ins and outs. She's been doing it for so long. I'm glad she was able to help you. But the gentleman that we had on, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we went into after the show. And right before we got to the end of the after show, he tells us about this letter he got from the VA that says he is 100% not able to work. He is disabled. But yet, he wasn't 100% connected with anything. But everything that they had in his records were all presumptives. And so we're getting him on the right path to get him there. But he had a letter from the VA saying, hey, I am 100% connected. And
You'd be able to get CIU back pay because on that.
We hope.
Because that's an unusual circumstance.
Yes.
For the VA to write you a letter.
Should be able to backdate it to that letter, at least the date of that letter.
Yes. And then, so, everybody has to advocate for themselves more than anybody. But, there's people on the Go For sites who can help you. I mean, there's Go For Illness Truth. There's Go For Illness. There's, Go For Research. The outreach program. I mean, there's so much out there that, veterans to veterans, veterans helping veterans. There's over 100 groups out there with people that are knowledgeable.
Here's a pro tip. Here's a real pro tip for any vet that's not service connected. Go to the VA, file for tinnitus, ringing in the ears. Tell them you have ringing in the ears. If you have ringing in the ears, don't lie, but if you have ringing in your ears and you were a vet, there's really not a test that they can do to disprove that you don't have ringing in the ears. So,
right. I always tell everybody
it's only 10%, but you can build 100% P&T scheduled rating off of a 10% rating.
Right, but as I tell everybody, I want everybody to file exactly what they have, nothing more, nothing less. And I have had guys who have called me and said, "Oh, hey, you know what? I'm going to file for PTSD because that's easy to, prove even though I don't have it." I'm like, no, 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 no. Because that's taken away from somebody who has PTSD that needs a counselor.
Here's the thing that they don't realize. Yeah, you can do that, and you can go in and you can fool the C&P examiner, but you're going to have some medical evidence. And I had a well-established claim because I had a lot of private and medical evidence to back up my claim. But at the same token, they can look at your ratings if you're not going and seeking help, and you're not P&T where your rating is just shut for life. They can go back and look and say, well, if you have a 70% rating for PTSD, but you haven't sought help in 3 years,
right?
Maybe
Well,
you're not a 70% PTSD. Maybe you don't have it because you're not seeking help to
right.
believe you.
And,
So
and
you have to continue seeking treatment for the things that they rate you for.
but this is the thing that gets me. Y'all can go back and look at on va.gov, and everybody's like, well, really vaccine injury, there's no really such a thing. The VA doesn't believe that anthrax vaccine is this. But if you go to va.gov and you type in, they talk about the anthrax, about how some people were affected by it. And then you go in and they talk about toxic sarin gas, mustard. I mean, the VA talks about it on their website.
They stopped giving it to line troops, anthrax, in 2005 because it caused problems.
Right, because the fifth, I think it was the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals told them they can't do it anymore.
Right.
But the thing that gets me about it is it's on their websites, it's on this, but our congressmen needed to put a bill together for that, included into the PACT Act. And that's what I'm upset about, is they took a lot of really good stuff out of it that people since the 1990s have been trying to put this bill together. Really, they've been forming information, they researchers and all this stuff. I mean, they had everything, that proof, but they didn't want certain wording put in there because they knew it'd be like Vietnam. They had to go back and pay a whole bunch of people back.
Look, man, our government, they love to be able to spend money for wars, but they can't afford the cost of it.
Well, yeah,
All comes
and
down to it.
so that's true. And Kevin and I have definitely shared our opinions on the PACT Act, and we all have our opinions. It is what it is. It's there. I'm not going to give any politician a pat on the back for doing what should have already been in place.
Agreed.
That being said, it's there. Like we've all discussed, you have to advocate yourself. Picking up a phone call one time and saying, I need help, and then waiting a response. If it doesn't come, what are you going to do? You got to be proactive. Pick up the damn phone call after a day or two and keep on doing it. You wouldn't stop if you're active duty. You're expected to continue. That doesn't change in the civilian world, that you're suffering. Nobody's going to come knocking on your door and start asking you a bunch of questions just because they think you had a bad day. We're not mind readers. You got to do it yourself.
Right,
and we are more than happy to help you along. And for God's sakes, if you've been dealing with this for a long time, to get your what you got coming from you, what you're dealing with is not going to come in a month or 2 or 3. Every single person that we've dealt with, the scenarios vary, sometimes significantly. You have to, if you've been dealing with this and you're not getting any tread, okay, that VSO, if you're going through a VSO and they're not working, change the VSO. If you've already done that and you're tired of pounding your head on the table because you're not giving action, don't do the thing that a lot of our government hopes that you're going to do, that is give up. Go to the next step. In certain circumstances, go to an attorney, because yes, they will get a small a percentage of pay. It's either that or sit back and feel miserable and sad for yourself. None of us are put together like that. I know depression's a bitch.
We were poisoned. That's just it. We were poisoned. We were, we were screwed out there. That's how I look at it.
Mhm.
And but here's the thing that gets me, and this hasn't been talked about very much though. And I'm going to say this: almost everybody out there knows a veteran. I mean, the veteran could be a World War II vet. A veteran could be a Korean vet. I mean, a veteran could be a Vietnam. If you know them, ask them, have you ever signed up with the VA for benefits? And I'm not talking about people for benefits as far as you get monthly checks for the rest of y'all's lives. I'm talking about to see what you qualify for even later on in life. I mean, there's elderly veterans that are sitting in these shitholes. I'll say it again. They're sitting in shitholes that probably don't have much family or no family, that are lying in these beds waiting to pass away, that really and truly could have such a better in life by using benefits, but they didn't know, or nobody took the time out to explain to them. Call the 1-800-827-1000 and just get signed up with the VA. I mean, they'll help you with elderly care. They'll help you with wheelchairs, scooters. I mean, that isn't being talked enough. And that's the part that's more upsetting to me now than anything, is because I will tell these vets, well, do you know if you don't sign up for this and you pass away, it doesn't transfer to your wife unless you're in the system. And y'all can argue with me. Anybody can argue with me. Come on the program that about this. These are not benefits. Your ass earned it. You went off, fought for your country. We volunteered. Be honest, I volunteered. Did I know I was going to go to war? No, or I would not have volunteered. I'll be honest with you.
I loved how you just put that, Kevin. These aren't benefits. I don't think I've ever heard it put quite like, they're not benefits. You earned it.
Yes,
you know?
These guys that had to be drafted, and these guys who did go in, the greatest generation of our lifetime, who are in their, 80s and 90s and 100s, that, I mean, these guys went out there to make our lives what it is today. Is the world perfect right now? Hell no. But they went out there, they fought for us, and then the next generation went out and fought for us. Our generation went out and fought for us. Next generation behind us, so on and so on. You know where I'm going. These are not benefits. This isn't something, this is not a social program. Anybody want to come on a program, argue with me on this? This is not a social program. You earned this. When you sign,
and you don't get awarded. I hate that term awarded.
Awarded. No
like
shit.
You want some prize.
Yeah. Right. And that's what's not being, instead of saying, know what your benefits are. No, know what they owe you as an elderly person that is sitting
that monthly
in a
check
shithole.
idea doesn't say benefits. It says compensation and pension.
Exactly. And
it doesn't say anything about a benefit.
Hey, I'm going to let you know, I had two uncles that fought in Vietnam. One of them had to get divorced from his wife in order to have cancer treatment. What kind of bullshit is that? Now, his wife does not get the VA benefits. I think I'm going to try to go back and fight for her and say, wait a second, y'all made this happen. So now that needs to be changed. Why should a veteran who went over, that was drafted, and man, I'm telling you, I'm about to get pissed. So get drafted, go over there, die at such a young age.
Yeah, that's crazy.
A young age of something you did. I mean, these guys didn't come home and talk about what they went through. They didn't come out and podcast what they went through. I wish they did. It probably would have helped them. They didn't know their benefits. They were spit on. They were disrespected. We came home with the yellow ribbons tied around our trees. They made songs about us going over there. I mean, when we
I was one
came
of like
back,
3 boys in my town. They had a parade for me, man. There's like
right,
3 of us on the float.
right. And now think about that. Them guys didn't get it. So now we need to help them to make sure they get everything that they've earned. And that's our job. But our job is also not to allow our children that are up in age that could get drafted for a war between Russia, China, or whoever the hell is,
Yeah.
we're going to go up against, it seems like. We need
Yeah.
to make sure that they're well prepared. They know what to expect. I mean, there's chemical warfare everywhere out there. I don't care what
Our
anybody
country's a
says.
scary place right now. Our country is a
It,
scary place. Our
it
world,
is.
I guess I should say, because we're kind of the way I see it, I see things teetering. There's a lot of teetering going on. In our world. And it's like, okay, who's gonna screw up? Who's gonna make that bad decision? Which I think I don't know, Russia,
Let's just pray it
China.
doesn't do that.
And
Let's just pray
Jeremy,
it doesn't do that.
and Jeremy wrote down here, Jeremy Daniels, they are drafted or owed entitlements. You damn right.
Yeah.
I mean, they are.
It was explained to me like this: if you were in a civilian job and you left your civilian job and you had your medical and your dental and your life and vision and all that, you're allowed to keep those benefits, entitlements, whatever you want to call them, with you and leave under the COBRA thing, right? It's no different. These are things that the law, the CFR, has afforded to us because they realize and have conceded that, yes, if you have these conditions, it's more than likely caused from the Gulf War
right.
illness or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a presumptive for that.
and
And all you got to do is prove you got it. If you got it,
Yeah.
then you're
right.
sorry, I got stuff falling off the walls of my camper.
No.
If because I don't have it, I just got back home, so I don't have the stabilizers down. Yeah, it's all you got to do is prove it, and that's the hardest thing. It's the one thing that vets don't understand. Go to your doctor, read about what it is that we have as presumptives in the Gulf War and in the PACT Act. Match it up to your symptoms. Try to start matching and connecting the dots. Then, if you got, go to your, get a colonoscopy, an endoscopy, from your gastroenterologist, see a rheumatologist. Start there. Maybe a neurologist if you have things that I was telling you about that I have with the neuropathy in my arms and legs. But get this stuff on record and get it documented, because the more you complain about it to your civilian doctors, this is going to take time and effort, but it pays off. It pays off, and if you need help, there are, like John had mentioned, there's like Vet Guardian. My cousin is a command sergeant major, retired Ranger, and he's helping me out with that because he knows the CEO of that. That's a large thunderstorm coming in. And their gig is they're going to take 5 months of your compensation and pension. So if you get at 100% rating, so that's about $3,500 a month on the average for the average vet at 100% times 5. That sounds like a lot of money. That's $15,000 that you give up of your compensation to get the people to help you develop your claims, to get you 100% rating if you deserve that rating, 100% rating real quick, and then get you on SSDI if you can't work. Those two programs right there that are afforded to us as veterans
I like that word.
Millions and millions of dollars over the course of 20 to 30 years that most of us have hopefully have left in our life. Why would you go to a casino and leave $1 million in chips on the table when all you got to do is put $250 down in chips, and you're going to take those chips home. Why do you do it?
Right.
I mean, it sounds mean, and it
I like
sounds
that.
like it's
Yeah.
greedy.
I like
It
that.
sounds greedy,
That's-
but you've got to look at the VA as a casino, and you've got
That's
to
a
be
good comparison.
And-
Good comparison, Tom.
And
Yep.
I want to give kudos also to Tim. Tim just put down here, sign up for the burn pit registry,
Exactly.
and to let everybody know, even if you're not affected now, it doesn't mean 2 years, 5 years, 10 years you won't be. Get put on the registry, but there isn't just the burn pit registry. There's also the oil rig registries. There's other registries that if you were in the Navy, out of oil well fire rigs and all that stuff, there's different registries, but the burn pit registry is the main one. Get signed up. And with that being said, you know, to me, Tom, this has been this is a good one tonight. I mean, I like the poker
I
one.
became very passionate about this because I got screwed, and I was bitter about it for a decade.
Right.
I'm no longer bitter about it. Now I've turned my bitter and angerness into a passion, and much to my wife's chagrin, actually. She's like, will you just shut up, please? But it consumes me, and it has to consume me. And I keep telling her, it has to consume me until I get to 100% P&T, which is what I rightfully deserve, because when I get there, it's for you. It's for my child. I don't know if I said this, my 17-year-old just beat brain cancer. He had 3 brain tumors, and that kid is in the National Honor Society, a 4.3 GPA, in dual enrollment, getting ready to go into his senior year, wanted to go to the Air Force Academy, had the congressional nod from the vice chairman of the Armed Services Committee, who happens to be my congressman, and he would have been there. But cancer has stopped that. But now he wants to be a pediatric oncology nurse. For me, the benefit for me, if I get 100% P&T, my son, the state of Virginia, will pay for his college tuition to any state school he wants to go to. And he wants to go to Virginia Commonwealth University right down the road from me. Because that's the university that saved his life. And on top of that, the federal government, as long as he's full-time, will pay him, I think it's $1,450 a month tax-free to go to school, to use with whatever hell he wants on top of his scholarships. So he can go buy a ride. He can pay his rent. He can put groceries on the table.
Well,
he doesn't have to worry about
but
anything.
does your state
Neither do I.
does your state offer that if you were born there and you went in the military, they get free education like Texas
You just
does?
have to be a resident here. You just have to be. My state just actually raised the state tax for military retirees too.
Oh wow!
So if you're a military retiree, you pay less income tax on your retirement, and they're trying to actually reduce it almost completely for military retirees in Virginia.
Man,
We got a lot of military here.
That's
we're
badass.
here. We got Norfolk.
And John, what is your last words of wisdom?
Wisdom.
And I laugh.
No, I just appreciate Tom coming on and sharing his experience, and advocate for yourself. Advocate for yourself. Pick up the phone. Don't wait on the email. You know, stay on top of things. Nobody's going to come knocking on the door saying, "Hey, can I help you?" You got to do it yourself. We are more than willing to lead you in the right direction. You know, we have experience. There is no magic wand. You know, like Tom explained earlier, you have to prove some things are progressive. Hey, yeah, right. Magic wand. So,
and you're right, but I'm gonna. This is where I'm gonna leave it for tonight with everybody. All right, and I know it's Chrissy that probably wrote this more than anybody, but when you sign up, list all known toxins. The forms may say airborne. Put all exposures in your life, and go for a registry. Sign up for that, and for Desert Storm, Desert Shield era, even if you were not deployed, sign up. List your known toxins. That's where I'm going to leave it. And I want to thank everybody for listening tonight. This is an important message. And I almost want to go beep, beep, beep. That's an important announcement. Pay attention. But I'm not
You
because
forgot the one last thing, the most important thing. 22 a day, guys.
that's right.
22 a day. Suicide is the number one killer of veterans. And there's a suicide hotline number, and I don't know it off the hand, but it's on every one of my VA medication bottles. It's on the top. And if you got a problem, I mean, please post it. But there is a number. Give that number a call. It's free. It's 100% free to any veteran, no matter what your status is, whether you're service connected or not.
And I know
See,
that,
seek
and,
mental
and,
health.
and I know because I had to call it because of the VA.
Yeah.
But thank y'all for listening, and everybody have a great night, and God bless everybody, man. Thank you for listening to Go For Side Effects. If you have a story or you would like to share or just come on with any comments or questions, please email me at kevinsimon@goforsideeffects.com.